You're about to witness a story that will shatter everything you think you know about power, privilege, and what it truly means to lead. It's about a billionaire who thought he could control everything, a waitress who refused to be invisible, and an 11-year-old boy whose courage changed them both forever. What happens next will leave you questioning everything you believe about success and dignity. Picture yourself in Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, where the silence that suddenly falls is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The gentle clink of expensive silverware stops mid-air. Conversations halt. Every pair of eyes in the room turns toward the small space between the tables, where something extraordinary is about to unfold. 11-year-old Nathan Montgomery is trembling. His legs, confined in gleaming metal braces, shake as he extends his small hand toward Jessica Williams, the restaurant's only black waitress. The piano has just begun, a soft, haunting melody, and this boy's sudden impulse to ask someone to dance comes without warning, catching everyone off guard. "Sir, control your child." Manager Harrison's voice slices through the silence like a blade. "This is completely inappropriate. This is not some community dance hall, and our staff are certainly not here to entertain children. You can see William Montgomery, owner of Montgomery Global Enterprises, and one of the wealthiest men alive, swallow hard, his jaw clenching. This is the first time he's brought Nathan to dinner in public since the devastating accident that partially paralyzed his legs 2.5 years ago, a decision he's already regretting. "Nathan, sit down, now." The command comes low but unmistakably firm. Jessica stands frozen, her eyes darting between the furious manager, the powerful billionaire, and the young boy whose hand remains suspended in the air, waiting. In her 6 years working at this establishment, she's perfected the art of becoming invisible, especially around customers like Montgomery. "Mr. Harrison, my shift ended 5 minutes ago." Her voice is steady, controlled. She unties her apron and places it carefully on her serving tray. Then, to the absolute shock of everyone watching, she smiles warmly at Nathan and takes his outstretched hand. "I can't dance properly in this apron anyway." William shoots to his feet, his face flushing with anger and embarrassment. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Jessica meets his fierce gaze without flinching. "I'm accepting a gentleman's invitation." "To dance, sir." Before anyone can stop them, Nathan takes a hesitant, painful step forward. His foot drags across the polished marble floor, and the metal of his braces creates an agonizing screech that makes several diners wince. But Jessica doesn't try to guide him, doesn't attempt to hurry him along or correct his movements. She simply adjusts her own pace to match his. "She's getting fired first thing tomorrow morning," whispers a woman at the adjacent table, loud enough for others to hear. William stands paralyzed, watching this impossible scene unfold. Suddenly, a memory crashes into him with devastating force. Elizabeth, his beloved late wife, dancing with Nathan in their living room just weeks before the accident. "It's never about being perfect, darling," she had said, laughing as Nathan stepped on her toes. "It's about making that connection with another human being." As Jessica follows Nathan's awkward, determined steps, something miraculous happens in the boy's eyes. The fear that's lived there for over 2 years begins to melt away, replaced by intense concentration. The shame that's defined him since the accident transforms into something resembling pride. For the first time since that terrible day, he isn't being guided, helped, pitied, or corrected. He's leading. "Mr. Montgomery," the manager's voice cuts through his thoughts like ice. "I can absolutely assure you this will never happen again. She will be properly disciplined for this outrageous behavior." William doesn't respond. He can't. The entire restaurant seems to hold its collective breath, waiting for his reaction. After all, a man with his level of power and influence could destroy anyone's career with a single word, a simple phone call. Every employee stops what they're doing. Other customers watch with a mixture of fascination and morbid curiosity, waiting to see how this drama will unfold. But Nathan's smile, genuine and radiant for the first time in years, is the only thing echoing in his father's mind. After just 3 careful dance steps, Jessica guides the boy back to his table. "Thank you for asking me to dance," she says with formal politeness, as if addressing a grown man. "It was truly an honor." As she turns to leave, William's voice stops her cold. Wait. His voice sounds different, almost unrecognizable to himself. Stripped of its usual commanding authority. "What's your full name?" "Jessica Williams, sir." William nods slowly, as if committing it to memory. "Jessica Williams," he repeats. Then he reaches into his jacket and withdraws a business card, extending it toward her with slightly trembling fingers. "My office. Tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock sharp." The entire restaurant holds its breath. This could mean anything. Termination, legal action, or something else entirely. Jessica accepts the card without showing any emotion, though her hand trembles almost imperceptibly. "Dad!" Nathan calls out as she walks away, his voice cutting through the tension. "Why did you do that?" The question hangs in the air like an accusation, and William realizes that for the first time in over 2 years, he's looking at his son, not just as the broken child Elizabeth left in his care, but as a complete human being whose wants, needs, and dreams he's systematically ignored. As dinner continues in suffocating silence, no one notices the look in Jessica's eyes as she leaves. It's not fear or resignation. It's a calm, steely determination that hints at something much larger than anyone in that room could possibly imagine. What William Montgomery doesn't know, what he couldn't possibly comprehend from his world of glass towers and endless wealth, is that Jessica Williams isn't just a waitress who agreed to dance with his son. She's a woman with a mission that's been years in the making, and his empire of isolation and privilege is about to face its greatest challenge: the simple truth that some of life's most important lessons cannot be bought, controlled, or commanded. They must be lived. Stay with us, because what happens in that office tomorrow will change everything you think you know about power, dignity, and what it truly means to lead. The lobby of Montgomery Tower gleams like a cathedral made of glass and marble, reflecting the morning sunlight in dazzling patterns. Jessica Williams steps through the revolving doors, immediately feeling the weight of being out of place in her best outfit, a navy blue skirt and crisp white blouse she bought on clearance 3 months ago. You can see how the people flowing past her wear clothes that probably cost more than she makes in 6 months. Their shoes alone could pay her rent. "Jessica Williams to see Mr. Montgomery," she announces to the receptionist, whose perfectly manicured fingers pause over her keyboard, as she examines Jessica with the kind of clinical assessment reserved for specimens under a microscope. 22nd floor, Ms. Carter will escort you up." In the elevator, Jessica takes a deep breath, clutching her worn leather purse against her chest. But what she feels isn't fear. It's that same calm determination that comes from having survived. Much worse than this, Ms. Carter is a woman in her mid-40s with razor-sharp eyes and the kind of posture that screams corporate efficiency. "Mr. Montgomery is finishing a conference call with Tokyo. Please follow me." As they walk through corridors lined with mirrors and abstract art worth more than most people's houses, Jessica feels the curious stares of employees burning into her. In back, a black woman being escorted through the executive floors is rare enough to cause whispered speculation and raised eyebrows. "He had you terminated, didn't he?" Ms. Carter asks suddenly when they're alone in an opulent waiting room filled with leather furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows. "It happens more often than you'd think. Powerful clients make one phone call, and people like you simply disappear." "People like me," Jessica repeats, not as a question but as a statement loaded with meaning. "You know exactly what I mean." Carter adjusts her designer glasses. Employees who forget their place in the natural order of things. Jessica's smile contains no warmth whatsoever. And where exactly would that place be, Ms. Carter? Before Carter can respond with what would undoubtedly be a carefully crafted insult, her phone buzzes. He'll see you now. William Montgomery's office occupies half the entire floor. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan sprawls below like a personal kingdom. The man himself stands with his back to the door, gazing out at the city as if contemplating which building to purchase next. Mr. Montgomery. Jessica greets him with professional formality. William turns slowly, his face and carefully constructed mask of controlled power. Ms. Williams, thank you for coming. He gestures toward a chair. Please, sit. The silence that follows is calculated, tactical, the kind of silence designed to make nervous people talk too much and reveal more than they intended. Jessica recognizes the technique immediately and simply waits. Do you have formal education? William finally asks, his tone suggesting he already knows the answer. Could you be more specific? College, university credentials. Jessica keeps her gaze absolutely steady. Bachelor's degree in child development from NYU, incomplete master's degree in special education. Something flickers across William's face. Surprise, perhaps even shock. And yet you work as a waitress. I work 4 jobs, actually, Jessica corrects him. The restaurant, a bookstore on weekends, tutoring when I can find students, and I volunteer at a community center. William moves to his massive desk, retrieving a thick folder. I had my people research you, Ms. Williams. I wanted to understand exactly who the person was who... He hesitates, searching for words. Danced with my son. He opens the folder, revealing printed photographs of a modest community center. Liberation Steps. You founded this program 7 years ago. Jessica sits straighter, her composure never wavering. I co-founded it with my sister Maya. It's a movement therapy program for children with physical disabilities. William flips through several documents, his expression unreadable. A program that's now facing closure due to insufficient funding. Jessica shows no surprise at his knowledge. Of course, a man like William Montgomery could uncover her entire life history in less than 12 hours. I didn't come here to ask you for money, Mr. Montgomery. Then why did you come? Because you invited me. William laughs, a sound completely devoid of humor. Fair enough. He stands again, restless energy radiating from him like heat. I want to offer you a position, working for me. Jessica blinks, genuinely caught off guard. As a waitress in your home. William's face hardens into stone. As a therapeutic companion for Nathan, his son's name seems physically difficult for him to pronounce. Jessica notices how his eyes drift momentarily toward a silver-framed photograph on his desk. A radiant woman holding a laughing baby. I have access to the finest specialists in the country, William continues, his voice growing more controlled. Physical therapists, neurologists, psychologists, the absolute best that money can buy. But what you did yesterday... He pauses, as if the words are betraying some carefully guarded secret. That was the first time I've seen him genuinely smile since the accident. The admission clearly costs him something. It was just a dance, Mr. Montgomery. It was the first time. I've seen him lead anything in 2.5 years. William's voice cracks almost imperceptibly. I don't want to hire a dancer for my son. I want someone who can do what you did. Follow his lead instead of trying to guide him. Jessica studies the man before her with new understanding. Beneath the armor of wealth and control, she recognizes something others might miss entirely, a desperate, drowning father. I can pay you 6 times what you're earning now. Full benefits, housing if you need it. Jessica stands up slowly. No, William looks as if she's just spoken in a foreign language, the expression of someone completely unaccustomed to hearing that particular word. I don't work for people who see my color or my economic status before they see my qualifications, she explains with devastating calm. And I absolutely refuse to work for someone who thinks they can purchase solutions to emotional problems. With their checkbook, William's face flushes red. You're turning down an offer that would solve all your financial problems out of stubborn pride? Out of dignity, Jessica corrects, and because your son deserves far better than someone who's been hired to pretend to care about him. She walks toward the door, then pauses with her hand on the handle. Nathan doesn't need more experts telling him what he can't do. He needs space to discover what he can do on his own terms. You don't know anything about my son? No, Jessica agrees, but I know children like him. Children whose physical limitations pale in comparison to the invisible prisons we build around them with our fears and low expectations. She takes a business card from her purse and places it on his desk. Liberation steps, classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. If you'd like to bring Nathan, the first session is completely free. As Jessica walks toward the elevator, she passes Ms. Carter, who has obviously been eavesdropping behind the door. You just turned down a personal offer from William Montgomery, Carter whispers in complete disbelief. Are you completely insane? Jessica smiles as the elevator doors open. Maybe, but I'd rather be insane than be someone's well-paid property. What Jessica doesn't tell Ms. Carter, what she doesn't tell anyone, is that this confrontation was exactly what she'd been preparing for. In her small apartment in the Bronx, hidden beneath her bed, lies a notebook filled with detailed observations about children like Nathan and men like William Montgomery. Years of research, planning and strategy that began with a simple philosophy. Some of life's most important battles aren't won with money or power. They're won with dignity, patience, and the courage to walk away when your principles are worth more than any paycheck. And William Montgomery's empire of control is about to discover that some people simply cannot be bought. But will his love for his son be strong enough to make him follow instead of lead? Stay with us, because what happens next will determine whether pride destroys a family or humility saves it. The following Thursday afternoon, Jessica is at the front desk of the Liberation Steps Community Center when Maya, her sister and co-founder, comes rushing through the door, her hijab slightly askew from running. There's a Bentley parked outside, she whispers breathlessly, adjusting her headscarf with nervous fingers. And you absolutely will not believe who's sitting inside. Through the large windows, Jessica can see the gleaming luxury vehicle that costs more than most people's houses. Nathan sits in the back seat, his face pressed against the window, his eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. William remains rigidly in the driver's seat, his hands gripping the steering wheel as if he's fighting an internal war. He's not coming in, Maya predicts with certainty. Men like him don't set foot in places like this. This is as close as his pride will let him get. Jessica smiles, remembering the determination she'd seen in Nathan's eyes during those 3 precious dance steps. Don't underestimate the power of a child who's finally found his voice. As they watch, the car door opens with deliberate slowness. Nathan emerges first, carefully adjusting his braces, his movements more confident than they'd been at the restaurant. Then, to everyone's complete amazement, William steps out as well. The billionaire looks painfully out of place in his carefully chosen casual attire, designer jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than Jessica's monthly rent. It's an obvious attempt to dress down, but he still radiates privilege from every pore. I told you he'd come, Jessica murmurs, more to herself than to Maya. Maya stares at her sister in wonder. What exactly did you do to that man? Jessica doesn't answer immediately, but her eyes hold a secret that even Maya doesn't fully understand. What her sister doesn't know is that in Jessica's tiny apartment, hidden in a shoebox under her bed, lies a notebook filled with years of careful observations about children like Nathan and fathers like William Montgomery. Research, strategy, and a carefully crafted plan that had begun with a simple acceptance of an invitation to dance. What William Montgomery could never imagine, trapped as he is in his world of glass towers and unlimited wealth, is that Jessica Williams isn't just a waitress who agreed to dance with his son. She's a woman on a mission, and his fortress of isolation and control is about to face its greatest challenge: the truth that some of life's most profound lessons cannot be purchased, controlled, or commanded. They must be experienced, one painful step at a time. Liberation Steps operates out of a converted warehouse space in a neighborhood William Montgomery has probably never visited. Handmade banners decorate the walls with empowering messages. Your rhythm, your rules, every movement matters, and progress, not perfection. When William and Nathan enter, they're greeted by the sight of children with various mobility devices, practicing freeform movements to a gentle, rhythmic beat. A girl in a bright pink wheelchair spins in graceful circles, while a boy with a prosthetic leg creates his own sequence of steps that defies every traditional therapy approach William has ever seen. Mr. Montgomery, Jessica approaches wearing simple clothes with the Liberation Steps logo. Welcome to our world. Nathan watches the children with pure fascination, his eyes lighting up in a way William hasn't seen since before the accident. A teenage girl with cerebral palsy moves in ways that seem impossible, while a boy using forearm crutches creates a dance that incorporates his mobility aids as extensions of his body rather than limitations. This looks completely chaotic. William comments, his discomfort obvious to everyone in the room. There is structure, Jessica replies calmly. It's just not the kind you're accustomed to recognizing. She turns to Nathan with a warm smile. Would you like to join them? The boy nods enthusiastically, but immediately looks to his father for permission, a habit ingrained by years of overprotection. Go ahead, William says stiffly. I'll be right here watching. As Jessica guides Nathan toward the group of children, Maya approaches William and offers him a folding chair, the same kind everyone else sits on, no special treatment. The first day is always the hardest, she comments gently. For the parents, I mean, never for the kids. This isn't therapy, William argues, his voice tight with skepticism. I've hired the absolute best rehabilitation specialists money can buy. And how has that been working for Nathan? Maya asks with genuine curiosity, no judgment in her tone. Before William can formulate a defensive response, the main door opens and an older woman enters, walking with an elegant cane that's clearly more fashion statement than necessity. She has silver hair braided in intricate patterns and carries herself with the unmistakable presence of someone accustomed to commanding respect. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Maya whispers to William, neuroscientist specializing in neuroplasticity. Recently, retired from Columbia University, the distinguished woman greets several children by name before her eyes settle on William with unmistakable recognition. Mr. Montgomery, she says with a slight smile. You've rejected my research proposals 4 times in the past 3 years. Dr. Rodriguez, William responds stiffly. I wasn't expecting to encounter you here. I oversee the research component of our program, she explains matter-of-factly. We're conducting groundbreaking studies on how non-directive movement approaches affect neural pathway development in children with motor challenges. Research. William frowns deeply. I was under the impression this was simply a community dance program, Jessica returns, having left Nathan exploring movements with a boy roughly his own age. Liberation Steps is a pilot program in adaptive motor rehabilitation based on autonomy theory, she explains with quiet authority. We integrate therapeutic movement with cutting-edge neuroscientific principles. Something clicks in William's mind, a puzzle piece falling into place. If you're leading a research program, why are you working as a waitress? Because we don't have adequate funding yet, Jessica answers simply. And because people like you have rejected our proposals 4 separate times. The realization hits him like a physical blow. You were Dr. Rodriguez's research partner on those proposals. Co-author, Dr. Rodriguez corrects firmly. Jessica has an incomplete master's degree because she had to leave graduate school to care for her sister when their parents died. But her theoretical work is absolutely revolutionary. You knew exactly who I was from the moment I walked into that restaurant, William concludes, his voice a mixture of admiration and anger. From the moment you entered, Jessica confirms without apology, and when Nathan stood up to dance, I recognized the opportunity to demonstrate rather than simply explain our methodology. Was it staged, the dance? Absolutely not, Jessica's voice hardens. Nathan chose to stand up. I chose to follow his lead. That's the difference between manipulation and opportunity. Suddenly, a group of reporters enters the space, cameras and microphones ready. William immediately tenses, his businessman's instincts screaming danger. What is this? He demands. Phase 2 of our plan, Jessica says with the faintest hint of a smile. Maya shows William a tablet displaying a freshly published article. Revolutionary motor rehabilitation methodology shows remarkable results in pilot study. We published our preliminary findings this morning, Dr. Rodriguez explains, and we invited the media to witness the program in action. William's face turns to stone. You used my son for a publicity stunt. Jessica leads him into a smaller side room where the walls are covered with photographs of dozens of children, each accompanied by handwritten progress notes and statistics. On the far wall hangs a single empty frame. What's that? William asks, pointing to the vacant frame. Our future, Jessica replies. The comprehensive rehabilitation center we could build if we had the proper resources. We could help 500 children annually instead of 50. You orchestrated all of this, William says quietly, his voice containing grudging respect. The dance, the meeting, bringing me here on the exact day you planned to go public. I saw an opportunity and I took it, Jessica admits. 4 months ago, when you cancelled our appointment without even reviewing our proposal, I made myself a promise that I would find a way to make you listen. Jessica. Maya's voice cuts through their conversation with urgent panic. It's Nathan. They rush back to the main space where Nathan has become the center of attention, surrounded by other children and several adults. Someone has turned off the music, and everyone watches in complete silence. The boy has removed one of his braces entirely and is attempting to balance using only one support. His concentration is absolute, his face showing a determination that takes William's breath away. Nathan! William starts forward instinctively, but Jessica's hand on his arm stops him. Wait, she whispers urgently. Just watch. Nathan takes a deep, steadying breath. Then, to the amazement of everyone present, especially his father, he takes one complete, independent step without full mechanical support. It's small, it's shaky, but it's entirely his own achievement. The children erupt in cheers. Camera flashes explode throughout the room. William's face, usually composed and unreadable, is now an open book of raw emotion. Tears glisten in his eyes as he watches his son accomplish something every doctor had said would be impossible for at least another 2 years. That's why we created Liberation Steps, Jessica says softly. It's never about taking perfect steps. It's about taking your first steps toward independence on your own terms. The reporters notice William immediately. A murmur grows as Nathan, completely oblivious to the political tension swirling around him, continues practicing his newfound skill with an expression of pure joy and concentration. William Montgomery finds himself trapped between two impossible choices: retreat in anger, confirming to the watching media his reputation as cold and calculating, or embrace this moment that his son has created through his own courage and determination. Between the power he's always wielded and the freedom his son desperately needs, William discovers himself in completely unfamiliar territory, a place where neither his wealth nor his influence can determine what happens next. What he decides in the next few seconds will either destroy his relationship with Nathan forever, or begin the most important transformation of his life. Stay with us, because what William Montgomery does next will shock you and prove that sometimes the most powerful people must learn to follow before they can truly lead. William Montgomery stands frozen as the reporters close in, cameras rolling, waiting for his reaction. His son has just achieved the impossible in front of a room full of strangers, and Jessica Williams has masterfully orchestrated this moment of truth. Every instinct screams at him to protect his privacy, to control the narrative, to retreat behind the walls of wealth and power that have always shielded him. But Nathan's radiant smile cuts through every defense he's ever built. Mr. Montgomery, a reporter approaches with predatory eagerness. Could you comment on your presence at Liberation's steps today? Is it true that the Montgomery Foundation rejected funding for this program 4 separate times? William's gaze shifts between his son, still practicing his miraculous step with pure determination, and Jessica, whose calm eyes seem to see straight through his soul. The weight of this moment settles on his shoulders like armor he's suddenly desperate to remove. Then, to everyone's complete shock, especially Jessica's, William Montgomery smiles. Not the calculated smile of a business deal or photo opportunity, but something genuine and vulnerable. You know what's most difficult for someone in my position? William addresses the reporter, but speaks loudly enough for the entire room to hear. Admitting when we've been completely, utterly wrong. A stunned silence falls over the space like a blanket. The Montgomery Foundation is honored to announce our commitment to fully fund Liberation Steps for the next decade, William continues, his voice growing stronger with each word. We will also finance the construction of a permanent rehabilitation center based on the revolutionary methodology developed by Dr. Rodriguez and Ms. Williams. Camera flashes explode like lightning. Maya lets out a gasp of disbelief. Several children cheer, not fully understanding the magnitude of what's just happened, but sensing the joy in the adults around them. On one condition, William adds, watching Jessica tense slightly. Ms. Williams must retain complete autonomy over the program and its methodology. No corporate interference, no board oversight, no strings attached whatsoever. Dr. Rodriguez looks as if she might faint. Jessica's carefully maintained composure finally cracks, revealing the shock and overwhelming relief beneath. Why? A reporter calls out. What changed your mind? William looks directly at Nathan, who has finally noticed the commotion and is beaming with pride at his father's presence, because sometimes the greatest leaders are those brave enough to follow where others lead. And my son just taught me that true strength isn't about controlling every outcome, it's about having the courage to let go. 3 months later, bulldozers break ground for the new Liberation Steps Rehabilitation Center. The project isn't the most expensive facility the Montgomery Foundation has ever funded, but it's certainly the most innovative, with every space designed based on direct input from the children and families who will use it. Jessica supervises the construction regularly, but she's never alone. Nathan appears frequently, sometimes bringing other children from the program with him, and to the continued amazement of the construction crew, William Montgomery shows up as well, often covered in dust from examining the progress firsthand. "I never thought you'd actually attend our methodology meetings," Jessica comments one afternoon as they review architectural plans. "Most donors prefer to write checks and disappear." "I never thought I'd be studying neuroplasticity at 51, William replies, rubbing his tired eyes. In front of him lies a research journal marked with countless sticky notes and highlighted passages. "But here we are." Jessica studies him curiously. "Is this part of your public penance, or do you genuinely care about understanding the work?" "Nathan asked to have his second brace removed last week," William says quietly. "I know, he told me he's ready. His previous physical therapist said that would be impossible for at least 3 more years. Jessica smiles. "But you fired her, remember?" "Because you told me she was wrong, and she was." William points to a recent photo of Nathan balancing confidently with only a lightweight cane. "He's progressing faster than any traditional medical prediction suggested possible." "Why have you never accepted my apology?" William asks suddenly. "Because you've never actually apologized," Jessica responds matter-of-factly. "You've redirected resources, changed policies, funded our program, transformed your foundation's entire approach to disability services. That's not an apology, that's restitution." William nods slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You're right. Again." 6 months later, at the grand opening ceremony, the contrast with that evening in the restaurant couldn't be more profound. The massive adaptive space buzzes with children using various mobility devices, all moving with absolute freedom and joy. In the center of the main hall, Nathan, now wearing only a lightweight support on his left leg, leads a choreographed routine. With 4 other children, his movements remain limited by his physical reality, but they flow with a confidence and grace that no doctor had predicted possible. William watches from a distance, no longer hovering or interfering. He's learned to be present without controlling. "He doesn't need you to protect him anymore," Jessica says, approaching quietly. "No," William agrees, his voice filled with wonder, "but he still needs me to believe in him." That's the crucial difference. A reporter approaches with a camera crew. "Mr. Montgomery, how does it feel to witness your son's remarkable progress?" William looks at Nathan, who is now helping a younger girl find her balance and rhythm. "Proud," he says simply, "not of what he's overcome, but of who he's choosing to become for others." "And what's been the most important lesson you've learned throughout this journey?" William Montgomery, the man once known only for his financial empire and ruthless business tactics, looks directly into the camera with complete sincerity. That true leadership isn't about guiding others down the path you believe is correct. It's about having the humility and courage to follow when someone shows you a better way. 1 year later, the Liberation Steps methodology has expanded to 12 cities across the country. Jessica receives the National Pediatric Rehabilitation Innovation Award, and her research begins implementation in hospitals and treatment centers nationwide. Nathan, now using only a lightweight cane on particularly challenging days, enrolls in mainstream school and becomes a youth ambassador for the program, inspiring hundreds of other children to find their own pace and rhythm. William learns perhaps the most difficult and valuable lesson of his life. The genuine power doesn't lie in controlling every variable, but in recognizing when it's time to step back and allow others to lead the way. But the most beautiful transformation of all belongs to their relationship. Father and son, once separated by fear and overprotection, now work together as partners in spreading hope to families facing similar challenges. In a world where powerful people rarely change their fundamental perspectives, and where those without Traditional power often remain voiceless. The story of William, Jessica, and Nathan serves as a powerful reminder that true transformation occurs when we have the courage to cross the invisible boundaries that separate us. When a billionaire learns from a waitress, when a father learns to follow his son's lead, when pride gives way to purpose. Jessica often reflects on that evening in the restaurant, when a young boy's simple invitation to dance set in motion a chain of events that would transform not just their lives, but the lives of thousands of children and families. She realizes now that the most profound revolutions don't begin with grand manifestos or billion-dollar budgets. They start when someone has the courage to take an authentic step forward and someone else has the wisdom to follow. In the end, it wasn't about who led and who followed. It was about three people discovering that the most beautiful dances happen when everyone finds their own rhythm, supports each other's steps, and moves together towards something greater than any of them could achieve alone. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most powerful people in the world discover that their greatest strength lies not in what they can control, but in what they're brave enough to let go. The end. If this story about courage, dignity, and transformation touched your heart, remember that every day offers opportunities to be someone's Jessica, to see beyond surfaces, to follow instead of lead when necessary, and to believe in possibilities that others have given up on. The question isn't whether you have the power to change someone's life. The question is, will you have the wisdom to recognize the moment when that opportunity presents itself?